It's time for another lap around the track with all the latest in motorsports interviews. Sometimes we get bent feelings, but we can't wait for the Bent Fender Podcast with your hosts, Nathan Conway and Wes Llewellyn.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Bent Fender Podcast. My name is Nathan Conway, pork chop around the racing circles around here. With me, as always, is Wes Paola Llewellyn. Plugola?
I'll be either. I'm both, apparently.
Well, it's all bullshit. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Sorry to start off kind of crazy, but we're fired up this week.
It's been a rough week. It's been a hell of a week.
Yeah, it has been, and we hadn't been treated very nicely, and around the social media, not really social media, but just different forms of media outlets world, and we're not real happy about it. But the thing of it is, we're going to start out, we're professional, and
right.
that's what we got to remember. That's what we're going to maintain, and we're not going to get off into a ditch where they have taken this whole mess.
So we're going to start with the fact that by the time this episode airs, there's been a little bit of separation between what had transpired and Friday, today, this episode airing. But let's jump back to the Facebook post that I made. We talk about social media all the time, and I made a Facebook post. It was on the 7th, which was last Friday, a week ago.
Right.
And I said, I am very sad and disappointed to announce that Nathan Conway and I will no longer be able to represent the Bent Fender Podcast on Regional Motorsports Power Hour.
Right.
I thought we were doing something good. Apparently, I was wrong.
Right, and you were wrong, and not through any fault of your own. But the thing of it is, and while we're talking about that, there's been some separation. You will now notice that Blake Smith is no longer the host of Regional Motorsports Power Hour, and I don't give a shit. I'm going to say their name because it is what it is, but we're no longer affiliated with them. Not that we ever were. Nope. I mean, in an official capacity, we never were. Let me go out on a limb here. We were never officially associated with Regional Motorsports Power Hour. And we were not paid by Regional Motorsports Power Hour for any promotion that was done on this show, and anything else that we talked about or we posted on Facebook. We were never, ever, ever paid by them when we were not paid by anyone else to do anything of that sort.
We were not employees of Cromwell Radio Group. We were not employees of Hancock Media. We were doing what we thought was right to build a partnership, to build a community, to do what was right for racing in this area.
Right. And that's all we've ever tried to do, man. And, here's the thing. We have a job to do what we're doing here. And this is completely different than anything that the radio station may or may not be doing on any format that they had. And, we've been nothing but supportive of everybody in motorsports for the past, 7 months? 6 months? 7 months?
We started in March.
Yeah. So, we're right around, 6, 7 months. So, here's the thing. We've done nothing but support them. We've gone to the show pretty much every time they've had one. We have supported, and obviously we've supported our buddy Blake. He was a show. He was the host of the show. But another thing is, our goal here is to make motorsports what it used to be, or a modicum of such, at some point, getting more eyes on the sport and getting more fans in the stands, getting more cars on the track, getting more money in their damn pockets, man. It all goes hand in hand. It's not going in my pockets.
No, not at all.
And I don't give a shit if it does.
Well, and not only did we go to the radio show, there were times when we would go to the radio show and there wouldn't be enough guests to fill the entire hour and a half, and Blake would ask us, do you mind filling in? Do you mind, killing some time on this show for us?
Right.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, we will, because we want to make sure that your show is good. We want to make sure that you're putting out a quality product. We supported the restaurant. We bought food at Maloney's. We hung out with the other drivers. We talked to them. We talked about their programs. We did this because this is what we want to do. This is where we want to be. Now, that being said, we've also been told that we are trying to, or have been trying to, profit off of this show and Regional Motorsports Power Hour. I will tell you with 100% certainty, Nathan Conway nor myself make any money off of this show. It costs, and I'll go ahead and tell you, we have purchased out of our pocket 5 microphones. Mm-hmm. We have purchased boom arms. We've purchased windshields we have purchased.
Check.
Pop shields we have purchased. A headphone amplifier. I purchased 2 different audio interfaces. One of the audio interfaces I'm still paying on.
Yep.
We purchased, the only thing that we did not pay for out of our money was a digital Tascam recorder that we used to take the tracks.
Right.
And we have been honest and upfront with that every single time that we talked about it. Lori Kimball with Home Realty came on as a sponsor. She actually gave us sponsorship money, and we were able to purchase that equipment.
Right, and don't forget High Octane came on and kind of traded out some stuff with us and allowed us to get some other things that would free up some money for the podcast.
They did. Same with Willie's. Willie's did the same. They did the same thing. So for someone to sit there and say that Nathan and I are making money off of this is wrong. It's and to quote Nathan, it's bullshit. And we're not making money. If anyone were to give us money, it would go directly back into this show. We have said that time and time and time again.
Right.
We want to produce the best quality product we can, and in order to do that, we either have to do it out of our own pockets, which I don't make much money. I work in a helping profession. I don't make a ton of money, so anything that we do takes some time because I've got to save money.
And I have a race car.
And Nathan has a house. Nathan has a family. We don't make money off of this. So, yes, we are quite fired up over this whole situation.
Yeah, man, when I get accused of doing something and I know good and well I'm not, and we can prove to you, different things that if you got a question about, we can prove it to you. And, I just don't understand, getting accused of making money off something that absolutely costs me money.
And it costs monthly money. We pay for the hosting out of our pockets, the hosting for the podcast site, the hosting for the website. This costs something. That's why we ask. It's not that we're wanting your sponsorship money to get rich off of. We're not going to take your sponsorship money and go buy a Texas Roadhouse.
That's right.
We're going to take your sponsorship money and make this to where we can continue to do this and do it right. Because I told Nathan in the very beginning of this, and I'm sure that if you listen to an episode of the podcast, I may have said it, I'm not going to put my name on something that doesn't represent me and what we're doing properly.
Right.
And that means if it sounds like shit, it's not going on the air.
That's right. And here's the thing. We have, and it's proven, and here's what'll prove the point even further. You can go back and listen to episode number 1. We had 2 microphones, a 2-channel box, and a computer. And that's what we had. And now, yes, we have 5 microphones. We do have a 16-channel, box that we can run through, and we have headphone amplifiers and different stuff like that. The Tascam. This is the reason why the Quick 6 is possible. This is the reason why we were able to go to the Davis County Fair and talk to all the monster truck guys and different places like that. The kids from the Soapbox Derby, the go-kart track. This is the reason why we're able to do that.
So, talking about putting into this. And I'm not complaining about this whatsoever. But I need you to know, and we've said this before, this takes work, this takes time. So let's jump back to the Quick 6 episode where I went to Cedar Ridge. Mm-hmm. So Saturday I went to Cedar Ridge, recorded the Quick 6, 13 interviews. Sunday I went to Rockport Raceway, recorded interviews. Monday night I went to the radio show, represented Windy Hollow on the radio show because they didn't have a representative there, went home, edited the Quick 6 from Cedar Ridge, uploaded it on the internet. Tuesday, went home, uploaded the episode of the Quick 6 from Rockport Raceway. Wednesday, we sat down and recorded Aaron Abbott. I stayed at the studio and edited and uploaded the episode Wednesday night for Aaron Abbott before I left. Thursday, I get in Gabriel Kirtley's truck and spend the next 4 days on the road recording interviews.
Right.
Monday, got home at 4 a.m., went home, took a nap, got up, and spent the rest of the day editing 4 episodes of the Quick 6 to get them online.
To get ready to come out to you guys.
So we then recorded Eric Wetstein on Thursday that week.
Right.
Stayed up. I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning editing his episode. Not that his episode took time editing, but I was up
it just takes time to edit an episode. It just is what it is.
I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning. So we don't stop doing this. Just like we've talked about, and just like drivers have talked about, racing doesn't end on Saturday. This podcast doesn't end. I work my ass off on this for you guys, and I love every minute of doing it.
Yep.
I love getting to talk to you guys. I love getting to hear the stories, and I don't want to be anywhere else. So to think that we're doing anything aside from representing ourselves, the community, the drivers we support, the tracks we support, to think that there's any maliciousness behind that whatsoever is garbage.
That's right. We don't play favorites here. We don't do it. We're not going to do it. We told you we wouldn't do it, and we have, several times been able to, prove that in different various, media posts that we posted and of all 3 different tracks that are running that night. Or, we don't just stay at Windy Hollow Speedway. We don't just stay at Cedar Ridge Speedway. We don't just, we go to different tracks and we go to do the thing because it's for you guys. And we want to do that because everybody deserves their time in the sun, and all these tracks need to shine. We do this for motorsports. This is what we do. I don't give a crap about any money, man. I don't. And, not that this takes, it's not super, super expensive like running a race car to do podcasting, but it does cost money, and it takes time. And it's just like anything else, you have to devote to it, and we've done that. And for somebody to, and then not only, drag us into it, drag another person into it, and saying that they're conspiring with us,
right,
is shocking to me. That's what kills me about the whole thing, is that somebody wants to come on and accuse me of something, but they won't do it to your face.
Right.
And several meetings had been requested with the same people that run a radio station that could have sat down for 5 minutes and we could have explained what we were doing.
And anyone that would listen, anyone that I would talk to, and the people in the community understand and know the radio show and our podcast were companion pieces. If you went on the radio show as a driver, you would be lucky, to get 5 minutes of airtime. You would get up there and you would be asked how your weekend was. You would be asked what you're coming up in your season. You would ask who your sponsors were, and you would get booted off for the next person. And it was a very assembly line process. One after the next, after the next, after the next for an hour and a half. So we offer the drivers the opportunity to expand on those stories, to sit down for as long as they want to talk and tell their stories. Because these stories are important to you guys. These stories mean something. These stories are important to us. This is the oral history of racing in this area. This is making sure that we are building a bigger and better tomorrow for this sport. So what we do and what any other media outlet does together should help.
Right.
Should benefit and should lift this sport up as a whole.
Right.
So to say that we're direct competition is idiotic, it's uneducated, and it just shows that someone doesn't care about this industry. They just see dollar signs, and that's not what we're about. It's never been what we're about. It's never going to be what we're about.
No. And here's the thing. I'm not a sellout, and I'm not going to do that. And here's the thing. And another good thing about it is this is my product. You don't control it, and I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but in this situation, you can't control my product. I'm on the internet, man. I can do what I want. I pay to be on the internet.
Right.
And that's the thing, man, is I can say what I want, and I can do what I want, and I can go where I want, and I can, dang sure tailor my episodes the way I want them to be. But the thing of it is anybody that's come on to this show that's been a guest can tell you, and, word of mouth, the show is all about them. I realize that we're starting this show a little hot, and we're kind of hijacking a little bit of the episode. And, before we get too much farther into it, we do have Jeff Christensen coming on today, and he's on his way down here and will be able to talk to us. And he's taking some time out to actually come from working on his race car.
Right.
So, dedication and guys like that is what we want on this podcast, and that's what this is all about. You know what I mean? And it's a guy that loves racing and just wants to be a part of it, and it can help him in the long run.
Well, and we were told in the beginning that our format that we chose, the long-form interview format, was not right for this industry.
Right.
We were told it was not going to work, people weren't going to listen to it, and it was a waste of our time. And we were like, you know something? We appreciate your opinion, and you may have been doing this, but we're going to do our thing. You know, if someone wants to give up their time and come and sit down and talk with us, we'll talk with them for however long they want. If they want to tell 4 hours of stories, then guess what, guys? You're going to get 2 episodes because we're not going to shortchange them.
Right.
We had a guest that had to cancel last week because he ran out of time in his day and was only going to be able to talk to us for half an hour. And I was like, I don't want to do that to you. I really don't want to shortchange you. I want to make sure that you get out and you get your story told. I said, when you have more time, let us know and we'll get you on the show. Because this isn't about Nathan Conway or Wes Llewellyn. This is about every single driver, every single pit crew member, every single track personnel individual, every concession stand worker who wants to come on this show and tell their stories. If you want, if you work at the Slide Job Cafe and you want to come on and tell stories about flipping burgers and being part of the industry, then we want you to do that. If you are, a track promoter from out of state and you want to tell your story, then please come on and we will spend as much time with you as you have to spend.
That's our goal, man, and that is the goal. The whole goal of this show is to make motorsports better for everyone. And if we have to, hey, did it hurt anything for somebody to be talking about a podcast on a radio show? It's not the same thing you're doing. It's absolutely not the same thing you're doing. I mean, in our format's different. We structure things different, and we're not bound by the same laws and different things that you are. So that's the thing. I don't know. We're just fired up about it, and we think it's kind of crazy, and it also kind of sucks that another person had to get railroaded, basically,
right.
And pretty much got without going too much into it, got asked to sell his integrity out, and he didn't do it, and that's the thing. Now, we haven't said that. There's a new host of the show.
There is.
And we wish them all the best. We're going to still support the show. We cannot do that in an official capacity per the radio station because, just because I guess they just don't like it. But
well, and Nathan, got my nickname this week, the Paola Plugola. You guys know that there are 2 things that Wes does good in this world, and that's overthink things and Google things. So when those words were thrown out to us, I thought somebody was just making some bullshit up. So I Googled it. And it's an antiquated broadcast law that says an individual is getting promotion unbeknownst or without permission from the radio station. So let's talk about that for just a second. And I'm not going to throw any drivers under the bus. I'm not going to throw any guest of the show under the bus. But what that rule says is anytime Blake Smith promoted our show by saying, check out Bent Fender Podcast for all your latest motorsports interviews. Because Blake, like us, loves this industry, wants the industry to be great, wants to have a partnership. Blake was like, we're going to do what we can to make this great. So I'm just going to drop this in there because you guys are helping us. We're helping you. Great. So that is free promotion from the radio station. So Nathan's a race car driver. He's sitting right here beside me, and I'm going to pick on him. He has sponsors on his car. One of his sponsors on his car happens to be a barbershop located in Whitesville, Kentucky, owned by Master Barber Chad Thompson.
That's correct, Chad's Barbershop.
You hear his commercials on our show. Regional Motorsports Power Hour is sponsored by Riverwalk Razor. I'm going to scratch my head here. Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest?
It absolutely is.
So Nathan's promoting his barbershop by dropping his sponsor's name at the end of his 5 minutes. But RMPH has a barbershop. So let's say you've got a lawyer as a sponsor. I'm not going to pick any lawyers out. But the title sponsor of RMPH is Foreman, Watson, and Holtree.
Attorneys at law.
Hey, sounds like a conflict of interest. Why aren't these drivers being slapped with Paola Pugola laws?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. And again, we don't want it to get to where the drivers cannot come on there and say they're sponsors because that's the whole point.
Right.
I care about what you're doing. Your sponsors care about what you're doing during the season, but they want to hear their names on there, man. They want to get advertised, and that's their whole point of sponsoring your race car or machine or whatever you've got. So, I mean, as well as your season is going, your sponsors deserve equal credit
Absolutely.
and equal time as your season.
Absolutely.
And that's a driver's job. We have said this, and a matter of fact, it was a whole 10-minute issue thing on the radio station that got. What's funny about this was got the marketing director over to our table, be like, you know what, you guys could sell anything. You guys know about sponsorships,
Right.
and yeah, we do. And that's the thing is we want to get these people out there.
Yep.
And it's pretty funny, but like, that's my job. That's what she said. That is my job. You are doing what I do for a living.
Right.
And I'm doing it for free.
Absolutely for free.
And what have I told you every time? Come on this show. Bring your sponsors with you. We'll promote your sponsors.
We want to.
That's it.
We provide every guest the opportunity and the platform at the end of their episode, at the end of their interview, to talk as long as they want about their sponsors. If they've got a laundry list of sponsors, if they've got 3 miles worth of sponsors, name them all.
Right.
Name every single one of them. Talk about the people who work there. Talk about what they do for your car, because we know how important those guys are for you. We know how important it is for them to help you do what you do every day.
Because if we bring the sponsors and we'll ask Jeff about his later on. But the thing about it is we're going to have, my point is, if we can get these sponsors back to being happy with what they're doing in the sport, we can keep them in the sport and not let guys, burn them out and things like that, because they can come on a radio show, they can come on a podcast the same way you can and not play favorites and talk about their sponsors.
So, you're right. You're 100% correct. And I know that we are heated. My blood pressure has been higher than it has been in a long time because I don't like this treatment. I don't like feeling this way. But here's what I know.
What's appalling?
It is. And here's exactly what I know. Neither you nor I or any representative of our organization has given them down the road.
Nope.
We have not treated them poorly. We have not slandered their name. We have not taken it upon ourselves to do anything childish.
Right.
The way that we do this and the way that we continue to do this is we get better. We get better every single episode we put out. We grow our product. We build our brand. We make this something that people want to be involved in every single time we open our mouths. Once we do that, and people see that we are really 100% invested in this for the right reasons, then somebody's going to come back around one day and go, you know something, guys? You do have a quality product here. And you were doing something good. And I'm not looking for an apology. I'm not looking for them to want to jump on board. But I know that we are doing the right thing. We are supporting this sport. We are making sure that we're capturing these stories. We are lifting every single person up who's involved.
We are, man, and that's the whole point. And so, again, I don't like getting accused of stuff behind my back because, you can certainly... I'll post my business card on there. We got my phone number on there.
Mine's on there too.
Everything else. So you call me and request a meeting. Call me and just talk to me, man. I'll tell you what's up. And if anybody has any questions, they certainly can feel free to call us. But here's the thing. What I'm not going to worry about is what a radio station's doing. I don't give a crap because I've got my own thing, and I don't really care. I don't have to go on the radio and talk about this. Here's the thing. We've proven that this is something that's sustainable. We've proven that this is something that can be awesome. And again, no harm to the radio show. Guys, get out and support the radio show.
I will, however, say, if you're a driver and we have interviewed you and you have enjoyed your time on our show and you happen to find yourself on the radio station, how about you talk about how you enjoyed your time on our show?
That's right.
I'm just saying. Just saying.
Well, it's true, and here's the thing. We can all work together. They don't understand it. They're threatened by it, I think.
You guys who are listening, you understand it.
Yeah, you absolutely understand it.
You get it. You tune in. You are the ones that at this point in time have helped us go over 3,200 downloads. 3,200 downloads
in
since
less than 30
March.
episodes, yep.
So, y'all are listening. Somebody is.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're not doing something wrong. We're not doing bad things.
We're not doing bad things, and that's the thing. We can help out. We can help out anybody. And as I told you, you come on, and we'll promote you. I've got my own race team, okay? And my race team needs promotion just like anybody else's does. But I'm not too ashamed because I know that I have an entity here that is impartial. And you don't hear us squawking about my race team all the time. And we did get criticized for that. That we mentioned the race team. I will continue to mention my race team, just considering that this is my show and I can do that. But we love to keep guys updated on what we're doing, and we love to talk about the stuff we're doing too. But here's the thing: we're not going to bombard the show. We're not going to hijack the show over that, and we've never done that,
Nope.
and we're not going to do that. So again, we can promote you guys. We're going to promote you guys, and I fully well expect you to whatever night that the radio show is, because get out there and support it. Go on there and talk to their new host is Billy Egler. He is no stranger to doing this, and Billy is a good host. And we wish Billy the best. I will still show up and support the radio show when I have time. And here's the thing, but I'm not going to be on Cromwell's team.
Nope.
I'm not employed by Cromwell. I don't care to be employed by Cromwell. I don't care if they ever talk to me or whatever. I don't care, because I've got what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I'm going to continue to support motorsports, and we wish you all would too. Now, I think we're done talking about it, because
so let's take a deep breath.
Yeah, we need to take a deep breath
Take a deep
and make sure that people understand we're pissed off about it. But here's the thing: what's it gonna solve to be mad?
Well, and I think we have vented about it. We've got it out there. We've let you guys know, because we got a lot of messages. We got a lot of messages about, hey, what's going on? Why can't you guys be on the show anymore?
Right.
So now
To the point where people were calling the radio station.
They did,
And we have been informed. We actually have been informed that we can come on the show, but we are explicitly under a gag order that we cannot mention the Bent Fenders podcast.
And if we do, we have to pay Cromwell Radio Group $600 for a sponsor's position.
Right. So, guys, here's the thing: I'm not giving up $600. I got better stuff to buy than their airtime, because I can't be there all the time, and I'm not going to do it. So,
and we're going to use that money out of our pockets to continue to grow this product.
That's right. Make it better for you guys. Go different places. Get more interviews. Just like Wes did in the Land of Lincoln, the 4-day AMS show. Not only did he get AMS drivers, modified drivers, he got street stock drivers, sport compact guys. We got everybody that was up there, late models. It was a good time. Wes had a great time going up there. And you know what? They all know that there's a place where that they can go and listen to interviews. And again, I can't be in Fairbury,
right,
or Granite City or everything every week. I get that, but we can definitely schedule a trip up there and knock out 4, 5, 6 guys.
Absolutely.
While we're up there.
And you guys know we grow. We are continuing to grow. And I'm going to let a cat out of the bag. We've been researching video. We have been researching what we need to do to take this podcast and offer it as a video podcast as well. It's going to take money. It's going to take time. It's going to take some upgrades. So any money that we would have spent anywhere else, that's where it's going to go. So you guys want it, we're going to give it to you.
Hey.
It just takes time.
It don't take money?
Well, no, it takes a lot of money.
Yeah, it does take money.
It takes a ton of money.
It takes fame.
Well, we're getting that slowly.
We need your credit card to ride this train, son. No, I'm just saying.
So no, but anyway, so deep breath. We're done with this. We're not going to talk about it again.
No. And if you would like to talk to us further about it, we would be glad to do so, and you can contact us. But we will not do it on social media. We will not. Do not ask me on Facebook. Do not ask Wes on Facebook.
Nope.
You can private message us, or you can talk to us via telephone or text. We will do that. But we will not slanderize the Cromwell Radio Group. We will not slanderize Regional Motorsports Power Hour. We don't do that. We're not in the business of doing that. We are more professional than the professionals that get paid to do their job, and it's one of those things that's pretty cool. So,
well, it's don't start none, won't be none.
That's right.
But if somebody else starts it, we got to finish it.
Because I'm going to tell you, after we learned what we learned, we woke up wishing a Mother Hunter would. That's all I'm just. No, I'm just playing.
So tell us about sponsors.
That's
Nathan.
right, man. Because
our sponsors, because they're important.
Sponsors are important, and you can find those on our race car and also on the podcast page and everywhere else. Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, which lets us bring you this show every single week from their facility down here. I would say it's beautiful, but Yeah, it's all right. It's
an
beautiful for
IT
us.
office.
Yeah, that's right. Chad's Barbershop in Whitesville, Kentucky. Martin's Towing and Recovery right here in Owensboro. Glennstone Construction, Henderson, Kentucky. Red Star Graphics and Slingshot Media Group, which can absolutely let you advertise. Red Star can create your advertisements for you, and I'm going to be doing some big things for racing. You can find us on the web. Conway Racing Team on Facebook, and also the Bent Fender Podcast. You can find us www.conwayracingteam.com. If you'd like to learn about the race car and the driver and the whole accoutrement of pit crew that's there, you can also find us the Bent Fender Podcast on the web. You can find us on Instagram at Conway Racing. You can find us on Twitter at Conway Race Team. So we're everywhere that you want to be.
So if you're, again, we say this all the time, if you have found this podcast and you forgot how you got it, you can get it anywhere podcasts are downloadable. So that's iTunes for you Apple folks, Google Play for you Android folks, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, YouTube. So get out there, get the podcast, share it.
Yes, that's the thing. When you like our posts on Facebook, make sure you share them, please. And go ahead and do that, because it's a whole lot better if you share it. A lot more people can see it if you do that. Yes, they can see it if you like it, but a whole lot more people see it if you share it. So lest we not forget, High Octane Racewear Graphics and Apparel as a sponsor of this podcast, Lori Kimball Home Realty as a sponsor of this podcast, and specifically, and also Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop as a sponsor of this podcast specifically. So anyway, so now that we have gone off in a ditch, and we shouldn't have done so long, but
we had to.
Right, and it's okay. So we're done with it now.
Yep.
We've said it. If you want to talk to us, contact us. If you want to talk to us, contact us anyway, and just talk about the podcast, man. We'd love to talk to you. And whoever you want to hear, we're going to get them on there. Trust me, we're going to get there. We're trying, and we're doing big things. Now, before we go to get to Jeff Christensen's interview, because he has walked in and watched us bitch for probably 20 minutes, so it's a pretty cool deal that he was able to see this. So I hope he's not intimidated, scared, and give us some stories. But make sure you remember November the 3rd. You're going to want to remember November the 3rd.
You are.
And everybody's not going to be able to forget it after it's out. So make sure you do that, and make sure everybody tunes in to the podcast. Support racing, support your local track, support your drivers, support your radio show. I love it all. And we'll be back in a second after these commercials.
For most of us, our lives revolve around our computers. From banking and paying your bills to organizing and storing your photos. You need your computer to just work. If computer problems are driving you crazy, call Fairview IT Management at 270-228-4339, and they can get you back on track with one phone call. You can also find Fairview IT Management online at www.fairviewitm.com.
And we're back from the break, sitting here with Jeff Christensen. Jeff, appreciate you making the trip down to Fairview IT Management to our little podcasting nook here to sit and talk racing with us, man. And how you doing?
Great. I appreciate being on the show.
Well, I know you've been working hard. We kind of stowed you away from working on a race car, so that's a terrible thing to do to anybody working on a race car. But we appreciate you coming on, man. And like I said, and you got a lot of history, not only in racing around here, but racing out west as well, man.
Yeah.
But how did it get started for you?
I started as a little kid. My dad used to race when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, and he got out of it because he wasn't having fun with it. And then when I was in middle school, my cousin got me back into racing as a fan.
Oh, yeah?
And he owned a late model, and we went from Mount Vernon, Illinois to Hobstadt to every track around, and they got me back in it, and then as a fan. And then in 2000 I moved to California to spend some time with my family out there.
Right.
And I decided I was going to fill the dream, In 2001 I bought my first car, which wasn't much, and started with that.
Sometimes those first cars aren't very much, man. And what'd you start out with?
I started out with a 1979 Camaro.
There you go. Those, I tell you, those Camaros, tough on a racetrack, man, especially a dirt track.
Yeah, in California, and the division that we ran was called hobby stock.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't have a Camaro, you didn't run in front. or running in the top 10.
It
was all Camaros.
Wow.
Every car. And there was two or three Novas, but it was mainly just Camaros.
So you're looking at basically a leaf spring class. I mean, pretty much every car out there had one.
Yeah, the coil cars were dominant in the east, but in the west, a lot of our tracks go super dry slick, and the leaf spring car did really well on dry slick.
Well, I'm telling you, man, I mean, around here we've seen that several times with guys like Tracy Hack and different places like that, or different guys like that, those leaf spring cars were where it's at, man, and Novas and Camaros, man, they're just fast.
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough. My third car happened to be a Nova, and I really enjoyed that car, and I got rid of it. Probably never got rid of it.
Well, talk about that first car and your little Camaro there. How did that come about, man? Did you buy it and it was already built, or?
The roll cage was already built. Basically, what we did is we went down and bought a lean car and pulled the motor and training out of it and put it in there. My dad was real big about me just learning to handle the car.
Right.
So he said, "Son, we're not building a motor until you go ahead and figure out how to get around the track," which was a good thing.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
So actually, it was quite comical. My first race, I thought I was gonna get up there and tear it up and be as fast as I could, and I went out there and I surprised myself. I went out there for hot laps, and I'm like, "Hey, I can do this. I can run with these guys." I came back in, and then I started in the very back on purpose of the heat race, and we made our first lap, and then I was going into turn one, and I looked down, and my car just goes complunk to the left, and I passed my left front wheel, and then my left front wheel passed me. So I learned valuable lesson right off the get-go to check your lug nuts.
Yeah, you got to definitely do that. We heard a story a while back of Lee Michael Tierney came on the show, and they had kind of the same problem. They're out there racing, and man, there goes the tire.
Yeah,
I've had it happen to me too, buddy.
And the awesome thing about it is everybody, actually people we didn't even know, they came over and helped us.
Right.
Is this me and my dad in pits? We didn't have much. Knocked all the studs out. We put studs in. We threw on what we had on spares, and we went out there and we ran, and it was quite comical. It was like we were worried about, because we put the smallest tire on the left front, which was a 14, and everything else was 15s. That's what we had,
All right.
But it was pretty comical.
That's quite a bit of stagger across the front there.
Yeah, it helped.
Well, I mean, tell us about, though, you getting out there and you finally get to drive, and what did it mean to you?
It meant a lot, because, watching, meeting the other drivers and stuff, you build a bond of guys that you trust, and it was just a dream, you fulfilling a dream and being, I'm not going to say, it's kind of weird out there, is every year in our division we ran, when I started, we had B mains. And one of my wife's friends gave me a nickname right off the get-go. She called me B main Jeff.
B main Jeff.
Because that's where I knew I was going to be. And then my second year, we got down to 18 cars, 20 to 18 cars, and we got a little faster and got the car set up a little better. And then I sold that car, and then we progressed.
Well, I think that the important thing there is that you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you're making the B main, that's not terrible. I mean, you're gaining experience.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, because our division was everybody that got into it, they thought they were a race car driver right off the get-go. So they went from that to straight to a modified.
Ah.
And so we'd have there was always like 5 group of guys that were like the 5 guys running for a championship. And then like the next year, only 1 or 2 of those guys would be left, and then 3 guys would step up and take the other 3 spot. So we stayed in that. I ran for points 2004, and we had a pretty good heated battle for in the middle of the points. I think I finished 7th or 6th. You don't really remember that.
Remember that. But I mean, was that your first year, or was that the second year you started?
That was actually my second year. What happened is I took a year off because we had my oldest son, and so we took some time off and just trying to gather stuff up, and it was really a blessing because my wife, her family was in racing so long before I even came in. I met her through going to the racetrack, and it was great because I got input from her family. And they were her uncle is a great driver, modified driver, and he gave me a lot of pointers, and we had some comical stories. He gave me some education, and he kind of said, well, one of these days you might make a race car driver.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that before we get into the throwback still there, I think you've come a long way, and you've done okay for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't try to gloat, I think I can wheel a car sometimes. I've lost a little confidence lately, but I feel accomplished when I help somebody too. Just like me building carburetors, like if I build you a carburetor and you win, I feel a part of that win with me,
Right. Well, that makes sense because, anything in racing that gets done, success-wise, there's somebody behind it, and that may not just be the driver.
Right. There's always extra hands, fingers, extra support in racing. It has to be. It's so hard to do everything by yourself.
No. Yeah, that's exactly true, man. And I don't know, and I know you probably feel the same way, that I couldn't have got where I was, and not that I'm anywhere special, but where I'm at today, I don't. I got to attribute that to other people. They helped me along the way. But so talk about you're running that first year. Now, what track were you running at?
It's called Chowchilla Speedway.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, it's in California that was called a unique way of life. Was Chowchilla? They had a sign that actually said that as you rolled into Chowchilla.
Chowchilla Speedway.
Mm-hmm. It's right in Central Valley of California. It's probably about 35 minutes north of Fresno, and it's 25 minutes south of Merced, California. Which we ran there because I like the track from the get-go. We drove past Merced Speedway to go to Chowchilla.
So it meant that much to you, huh?
Yeah, it really does, because in our division, the best in the whole state raced at Chowchilla.
Wow. So
it was kind of like an outlaw track. If you can run there and do good, you were doing something. And we had some of the guys there was a handful of guys that they were good drivers, and not taking that away from anything. Like, I come back here and I can see good drivers right off the get-go, you know. Which we moved here in 2005. That's, I kind of retired, moved, do the family thing, and then, we got dragged back in it.
Well, that happens, too often than not, that, you're going to get drugged back into racing, and it's a good thing. A lot of times it is a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
Well, again, man, talk to me about Chowchilla and tell us about the track out there, because, I'm sure that most anybody that's listening to this has probably never been to Chowchilla Speedway. And
well, the unfortunate part, it's closed down.
Is it?
Yeah. Chowchilla was actually built in 2000, It was at the fairgrounds. It was a three, one. It was a 1/3, but it was a big 1/3, and it was a fast track. It was flat, but the corners were there. It was fast. It was dry slick. That heck of a show. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Nebo, without the hairpin turn 3 and 4.
Right.
So you can float it in there, going into 1 and 2, and it would be like 1 and 2 on both ends.
Right. So you're more of a. I mean, it sounds kind of like a fun track for sure.
It was very fast. It was a very good track. I also did race at Merced Speedway, but we didn't. We made laps there. We didn't really race.
Didn't get in and mix it up like you did at the other track.
No. We just. It was a different track. It was so short. I mean, you come out of turn 4 and you hit the wall. I mean, it flung you to the wall. It was a flat track. It was like literally us going out and racing in the blacktop parking lot here. I mean, it was that flat.
Wow. And that's Merced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, throw it back to that old hobby stock division, man, and how it used to be. I mean, now we had, some hobby stock stuff around here before, but, what would you liken it to these days? Kind of like a bomber car, or is it maybe a little less? More?
It's hard to compare because it's so different. We had DOT tires. We had to weigh 3,400 pounds. We had to have an open diff, which would be like a bomber.
Right.
They let us have racing springs because everyone had them. And 360 cubic inch roll, any kind of camshaft you want to run besides a roller. So, it was pretty wide open.
Wow.
Any stock transmission you can run. But the biggest thing is DOT tires, and really the only thing you could adjust was air pressure and stagger. So, that made it into a driver's division.
That's sounds like something that could still be useful today.
It'd be great. It would be great for a lot of tracks to have that. I mean, the bomber division here is really competitive, and it's only getting more competitive each year.
Right.
And there's more people. It's more of a affordable form of racing.
Right.
So a lot of guys like that format, and where I fell in love with Rusty Bolts because the competition of the Rusty Bolts it reminds me of my home,
Right.
You don't know who's going to win, any given night you can have a different winner,
That is correct, man. And like I said, we'll talk about that here in just a little bit in the state of racing, but I think classes like that, there's still a need for them, and I think that we're remiss if we don't look at some of that stuff to maybe try to help out around here.
Yeah, it's just so different from comparing cars from back in 2005 to here now. As I just mind blowing. Like on Rusty Bolts, we're stuck with a 410 hydraulic cam.
Right.
Kind of out there, they let us. I did forget one of the biggest roles we had was compression, and the kind of neat thing that was mind blowing. I fell in love with it. Our track had a pizza board, a round pizza, and they're written out like CDI,
Right.
text choice, weight, rear end, pull head. They would spin that, and whatever it landed on, that's what they teched all top 3 cars for. So it could have been cubic inch, it could have been compression. So whoever finished in the top 3, those 3 cars got checked for that, whatever it was.
Right.
And it was a roulette, because that way you can't say, well, he's legal because he's got more motor.
Yeah.
So it was an equal playing field for teching you know, and teching is huge in our sport. I mean, that is a thing that needs to continue to happen.
Well, just like referees or anything in any other sport, I mean, we've got to keep it fair, and we got to
Right.
keep things down. But I think it's fun to hear some of the stuff from racing in another state, especially out in the West. I mean, as far as west as you can go in this continent, and just seeing what all they do out there, and how they structure their races and their race days versus what we do now.
Yeah, which I haven't been out there in a long time, but I mean, I still have friends that I talk to once in a while, and it's pretty much the same. Things evolved a little bit out there. Our hobby stocks are more like street stocks now.
Mm-hmm.
They've keep just like any racing division. The promoters keep giving more and more. And you give 10 people more and more. Hey, I want this, I want that. Then that's where the division gets out of hand.
This is correct. That's correct. Before we leave the state, there, I mean, did you have any chance to get any wins out there, or did you battle it out pretty good?
We were close to winning several times. We just came up short. We actually didn't win our first race until we came to Nebo. And I drove a good friend's car, Michael Clark.
I know that guy.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just might be a little bit.
And he let me drive his car, and I won my first race there. And then he let me drive it again at Cedar, and I won 2 races at Cedar in his car.
That is that's an okay resume for sure. I mean, any wins are good wins.
Yeah, I mean, I've won heat races, and I've won heat races out in California.
Right.
But never won. We've come up, second, first place loser a couple times. But it's so different. On the average, you race when you start, and your training start, and you have 34 guys out there trying to race for, a $200 purse, and you're like, why am I doing this? But you gotta love it.
Well, I can tell you, man, back in the old days, even with Cruiser, and you talk about Western Kentucky Speedway there in Nebo, and we used to race Cruisers, run for a $100 bill, and it wasn't nothing to have 35 cars a night for a $100 bill.
It's kind of ironic. We, when I was in California, we had a very good friend moved to Tennessee, and then he moved back to California, and we would get and talk with everybody before the races and stuff. And I went over there and I went to talk to him, and I asked him, I said, how was racing in Tennessee? He said, well, he actually didn't race in Tennessee, and his thing is he used to run figure 8. And I said, so where you race? And he said, well, I raced at Windy Hollow. I was like, really? And when he came back, he drove a totally different style of driving because he got used to running with the guys here. And, we're aggressive. And he learned to be aggressive. And it's just a small world that our lives pass. Because, when I was a little kid running around in middle school, if Hopstop would rain out, we would try to pick up another UMP race with my cousin, and we would run from Hopstop down to Windy Hollow. And, so I've been there, as a kid, as a fan, and then to just have my path line up where I move here for work. It just worked out great, it's this small world.
It is, and it's sometimes, maybe it was meant to happen that way, and for you to be doing what you're doing now. And talk about coming back to Kentucky, and you're a family man now.
Yeah.
And how did you get back involved in racing here?
Well, actually, I had a good friend, Michael Clark, and he knew I raced, and we talked about racing. And he said, hey, if I get a car, will you help? And I was like, yeah, sure. And next thing I know, he shows up with a car, and I'm like, really? You got a car? And he's like, yeah. And he needed a little help, and I gave him a little help. And he went out there, and I just kind of car chief, help him, and give him some guidelines, and try to help him. And he took off, and it was like his second rebirth of racing too. So
Right.
he pulled me back in, and we had a good time. He was loved Windy Hollow, and I was like, you need to get out and venture, go to other tracks, and see what other tracks had to offer.
Right.
And got him to go down to Nebo, and he didn't like it at first, but he let me drive his car, and that's put me right back in it. And then once I started driving again, you get a little bug. So
Yeah, you do.
and then we went ahead and bought a junk car, and we still have that junk car today.
Well, man, you're right. Sometimes it's like you said, Windy Hollow is nice, and it's great you race there and things like that. But there's other options as well, and not taking anything away from any other track.
No.
But it's fun to, as a driver, to be able to get out and venture around and kind of see. You gain different skills at different tracks.
Right, and you also need to see, you can learn so much from how your corner entry, and you can learn personally. I haven't got to race on the Windy Hollow enough. I've only got one race on there, so I think I understand it a lot more now. As you watch it, you don't really understand it. I mean, it's racing.
Yeah.
But the D it's special. I mean, the other night when I was driving my car there, I started clicking, and I started understanding, and then I made a little mistake and took out my radiator. But
Damn you tires.
I didn't quite see that one on the bottom. Of course, I was looking to the right.
Thing's painted white, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, tunnel vision.
They ought to paint them blaze orange, man. That way
You'd have more cars on them. They'd paint them orange.
Probably. But yeah, man. I mean, you're right though. Like I said, it's good to venture out and to do some things, because as drivers, you do get at a stalemate. It's fun. It's fun racing at the same track, and things are the same, and you can work on what you're doing there. But again, there might be a whole different set of guys that run at Cedar Ridge. There's a whole different set of guys that run at Western Kentucky Speedway. So it's good to go out there and kind of gauge yourself, especially if you've had any kind of success, to gauge yourself against a different crop of drivers.
Right. Sorry.
That's all right, buddy. But so now tell me about you guys getting back into racing, and now how did the carburetor thing come about? The Wicked Carburetors.
Pretty much, like, I used to build my 4412s back in California.
Right.
And I did pretty good with that. And then I had an automotive repair shop, and I did automotive work, and that's what I do for a living. And Michael had started racing bomber, and Quadrajet was what he had to run.
Right.
And I really didn't know much about it, so I started taking them apart, started doing research on them, studying them. I had a couple old guys that used to rebuild them tell me, yeah, you do this and do that, and then I figure out they didn't know what they were doing either. So then I just started taking off and doing it, and we had good success with him, and then we started building a couple more, and then we had it was kind of nice. James Dockery contacted me and wanted me to build. He wanted to see what we offered, and I was able to take one to him down to Cedar Ridge. He put it on, and his eyes just lit up. He's just like, wow, I've never had one work this good. And he was impressed, and ever since, he's been running one. Then it snowballed from there, pretty much. Then Jake Hampton started running one. He ran one for a couple of years. Cedar Ridge is probably our biggest area for our wicked carburetors, and it helps because I'm there every weekend. It helps. I can help with somebody, but we have carburetors West Virginia, Indiana, Illinois. We even sent a couple up to Minnesota to run like on a pure stock, which would be like a Rusty Bolt here.
Not the old pure stock here.
No, they're all 305 division up there.
Yeah.
But it's just I enjoy doing it. It's something I'm found a challenge, and I studied it, learned it, and try to become good at it.
Right.
It's like a hobby. Like a passion. You love it sometimes, and sometimes you hate it. So you gotta make it work the best.
Well, and you're right. And you said something earlier was, talking about success, and you love helping people.
Yes.
And, you can do that with carburetors, and of course they pay you to build them, obviously, but but you have your carburetors, out there winning. I mean, talk about how that feels as well.
Every time someone wins with one, I feel like I win. I feel like I'm a part of it. I'm lucky enough to be a part of JT Motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
Trent and James. I'm there with them. And we have a buddy Rob. He's really supported me on. Yeah, it's funny. No one ever loses faith in you, but everybody wants to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to do E85 because of the cost, and there's some gain to gain, but that's a lot of unknown stuff compared to regular racing fuel. So
right,
we're not there yet. We'd like to be there, but we're not there yet.
Some experimental stuff coming out of the Wicked Carburetors garage then.
No, we actually went backwards. We're actually going. We've tried some wild stuff, and some of it's worked and some of it hasn't. But usually, what I do is, if it's wild, that's usually I run it because I want to see the consistency of it, or if it's not consistent. But we've had pretty good success, and then actually this year. We've actually went backwards and went back to the original, what we were doing right off the get-go. Instead of trying, we were out a little bit on some of our builds, and we kind of backpedaled just for consistency, to try to help make it more consistent, easier to work on.
Yeah. Because
sometimes, I get calls that, hey, how to do this? And it's like, a lot of people hate taking quadriges apart.
I'm one of those guys, man. I guess that's one of the things. I just don't understand the daggum things, man.
That's simple.
Maybe I'll take the time to learn. I have Jeff. I have you show me how to deal with them.
Oh, after you watch me do it, actually, it's funny. Wes was down, and I was actually freshening up a carburetor for Trent because he said. He called me and said, hey, I need a carburetor for Sunday. We're racing on Sunday. Well, he shows up at Cedar Ridge on Saturday to test out the car. And he doesn't have a carburetor. So he's like, hey. And I was like, he's like, you didn't answer my call. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I've been working on thrashing to get my car ready. He's like, you got the carburetor? I'm like, no. And then, of course, he gives me a little line, and he's like, well, I'm gonna call Willie's. I was like, you want his number?
It's always something,
Yeah, it's comical, you had to banter a little bit,
Oh yeah.
So I go back to the back of my Tahoe, and I lay it out and start freshening it up right there. And then Wes caught me in the middle in a driver's interview, quick six.
Well, that's never, sometimes we're the kings of doing that, and Wes will tell you, talking to Kenny Wallace, he pulled him right out from under the car and was like, hey man, let's do a little interview here. And
I had plenty of time. I mean, it was no time. We get down there early, we always get there early. I try to get there early to help, if someone has an issue or,
Right.
Even like we picked up another customer, we helped him out, and he's seen the improvement we helped him with, and he's like, wow, that made a difference. I was like, yeah, but wait till you see the whole difference,
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's been working out okay, man, and that's the main thing. And you're helping people, not just with your racing program and not being behind the wheel all the time. You race when you can, and but you get to help them with their carburetors.
Yeah, I actually feel very accomplished that James Dockery won last weekend on asphalt. I mean, that was kind of our first asphalt win.
Right.
And it felt good to watch him run with those guys. I mean, he ran right with them, and the funniest thing is I seen it click with him,
Mm-hmm.
and Steve Edge showed him the line around there, and he followed him, and he was right on him, and they had a caution. He got on the bottom, and he just kept running the same line, and he got his first asphalt win. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The whole wagon thing this year's has been pretty dominant.
Mm-hmm.
We went down to Duck River. I went with them. We built 4412 for Duck River.
All right.
And, for a car to be on DOT tires where they were on Hoosier 500s, and that track was so slick. I mean, to be honest with you, James Dockery just don't spin out. And to see him spin out, I was like, wow, that track's slick. Because he spun out right in the middle of the corner because he got on it too hard.
Right.
And that just don't usually happen. So, Duck River that was an awesome facility. The track is great. It's out in the middle of nowhere. But the facility is very nice.
Well, that's some of the best tracks, man, that you just find right in the middle of a field somewhere.
Yeah, it's amazing how, hey, I'm gonna build a racetrack, and they'll build it, they will come.
Yeah, they will, man, and that's the thing. You take a chance of not peeing off the neighbors that way.
Yeah.
Even though we don't care.
Well, it's amazing how, like I know California, we had at the fairgrounds and stuff, we had a 12 o'clock noise ordinance. So the racetrack would pay a fine after, unless it was approved by the city, because the thing I know, it seemed like we would have big races on the holidays.
Yeah.
It's like we would have more money for the drivers every holiday, and they would run for more money, draw more cars, and it's just, and then at the end of the year we'd have what we call an open comp show, and it's kind of run what you brung.
Mm-hmm.
And my first year running it, in just the hobby stocks, we had 120 cars.
Wow.
And they had all the way down to that F main.
Did old B man Jeff there? Did he hang with it there? Or?
Jeff became a D main. But the funny thing is my brother-in-law raced modifieds.
Right.
So that was the first year I ran the open comp. So then I decided, hey, my brother-in-law should be a hot shoe for this division because he's a modified driver.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put him in there. So we put my brother-in-law. He never drove my car. He drove it at mechanics race, but he didn't really get to drive it.
Yeah.
So he got out there and he drove it, and he drove it totally different than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So I actually learn a lot by standing back and watching someone else wheel your car, because you think what works for you, might not work for somebody else, and I learned a lot by watching him. So he did really well in the car, considering we had a flat tire in the heat race. He did good, and so then the next year I was like, I'm back in this. I'm gonna do it. And we made the A main first night, and we were we had some heavy hitters in our division that night, and some really fast guys. And then they did an invert draw. So how we started, I started on the outside pole, and one of my buddies come over and said, "Hey, that car starts next to you. He's gonna push you off the track." I'm like, "No, he's not." He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna go in turn one. He's gonna push you off the track." Sure enough.
Right off the track, Jeff went.
Yeah. But we made the A main that, and they did qualifying on Friday.
Right.
So, and they had money for qualifying. So they would qualify all divisions. So we had 4 cylinders, we had the hobby stocks, we had the street stocks, and we had the modifieds. Mm-hmm. We didn't have E-mods there at that time. So you'd all take a 2-lap shot to get your fastest time. Mm-hmm. And then they paid the top one winner money. And then you get your next day was heat races.
Right.
So Saturday we would run heat races, and then we would run a main. The people that qualified from the heat races would run an A main only.
Yeah.
And that would determine your starting spot for the Sunday race, which would be your A main that paid the most.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would take the guys that qualify from the E main, move them up to just keep jumping. They'd take about 5 or 6 cars and jump the back. And it's quite amazing. We had a couple guys start the very back, never showed up. They showed up on Sunday and made it all the way to the A main.
Had to run 15 races to get there.
But you think of the accomplishment you feel. Hey,
right.
Poor old car be wore out, but
That's a long way, man, to do that. Well, Jeff, I want to go ahead and throw it to a break real quick, and we're going to take a little siesta, throw it to some commercials, and we'll be back on the other side.
Whether you're buying or selling a home, you want to ensure your needs are met. Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated is the realtor for you. In today's fast-paced society, it's important to have someone on your side that will give you the care and treatment you deserve. Lori wants to build a relationship with you, and it's her full service commitment focusing on your family's wants and needs that sets her head and shoulders above the rest. You can contact Lori today at 270-315-1468. That's 270-315-1468. Or you can find her on the web at www.lorikimball.com. Call her today to unlock doors for your tomorrow by building a relationship with a realtor who's here for you.
All right, we're back from the break. Still sitting here with Jeff Christensen. And Jeff, man, getting a lot of good stories from your time in California and all the way up until, here in Kentucky. But we talked about stock car racing kind of being your thing. You know what I mean? And your dad was involved in it, and your cousin and things like that. But has stock car racing been your favorite form of motorsports, growing up?
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of different forms of racing in California. So.
Yeah, dirt. It's always been dirt. Just from a little kid, being 3-4 years old, it was called Watsonville Speedway, and now it's called Ocean Speedway. That's where I watched my first races. That's where I used to go as a little kid.
Right.
And from there, it just expanded. When my cousin started racing back here, my cousin got out drag racing and got into dirt racing, and they got pretty heavy in the actually got heavy in the late models, and they actually had other people drive for them. And I just remember some of the people that drove for them. It was cool to watch and be in the pits and be around different drivers and situations. They had actually some really good drivers drive for them, and I picked out my favorites, which ones I liked and which ones I didn't like. But it was pretty awesome, you know.
Well, since you touch on it real quick before Wes gets in, I wanted to ask you. Yeah, Wes is here.
I am.
Yeah, he's been doing a little work behind the scenes, but now has been able to join us on the mic. Jeff, I just wanted to ask you. You brought up favorite drivers and things like that, but tell us about some of your favorite drivers, and that could be from the California time and up here to what you've seen here in Kentucky, and how come you like some of those guys?
In California, my favorite driver was probably Scott, but I can't talk now. Shouldn't took a break. Ran out of talk. Scott Busby was a awesome California driver.
Right.
Just impressive, just dominating. He was really good. There was a couple guys. Him, Jerry Cecil. Jerry Cecil was an old school racer, and he did really well. Larry Faulkner was a modified driver that was just tough in modifieds. And then probably my favorite driver is just because I grew up or being around him. There's a late model driver named Doug McCannon. He drove, I can't think of the guy's name. This was back a long time ago, 90s, so gotta bring up some memories there. He drove for a couple people. He drove for his car was 92, and then he would drive my cousin's car, the 45 late model, and he'd be with a couple years with driving for my cousin and then back and forth. But he was probably my favorite and the most down to earth guy,
Right.
And it was great. And moving back here, as soon as we moved back here, it was quite comical because in 2005 we decided, hey, Wendy's Hollow's having a race, let's go. So we went and watched, and we didn't really know anybody.
Right.
So when we went there, we just picked out who we liked and watched them, and some of the guys were, they were a lot of fast cars. We couldn't tell some of the divisions apart because we have 3 of the cars look the same.
Yeah.
And even back in 2005, 3 you had different divisions all looked the same, and we're like, where would my car fit in?
Right.
Well, my car's not here. We sold it, but
Yeah.
it was kind of confusing a little bit. So we didn't understand, trying to get the aspect of, so what does this mean? What's a pure stop? What's a cruiser?
Right.
What's a rusty bolt?
Yeah. We can show you plenty of rusty bolts every weekend at the racetracks.
So the question I was going to ask is, coming from California to here, Fresno is not necessarily a coastal city, but there is still, that whole salt air vibe thing that happens in California. And now I'm an expert now because I've pitted 4 times. I've been on a pit crew 4 times this past weekend, so I know all about it.
There we go with this now.
No, when we were in Illinois, Gabriel Kirtley made a comment about the way that the dirt at those tracks was affecting his tires differently than the dirt affected his tires here, because the soil has got a different makeup.
Right.
So coming from California, where it's much more sandy and there is more salt, was there a lot more maintenance that you guys had to do on the cars out there to combat that kind of stuff?
No. The track texture, we would do different things on our setup. Like me and my buddy, we went to a track in Southern California, and I was pitting for him, and when he went out there and he couldn't figure the track out.
Right.
And then his dad, smart guy, he's like, hey, this track is a lot like one of the tracks we ran 3 weeks ago. So we need to do this. And they did it, and it worked great. And it's all about texture. And then what it was is the dirt was more sandy.
Right.
And the more sandy, I can't really say what you need to do because I don't want to give it away.
Well, I mean, but it's the sand and everything is a little more abrasive. So I mean, the tires are going to wear faster. So you've got to keep that in mind when doing those things. And I think that's what Gabriel was saying. Down here we do have more sandy quality to our dirt here than the tracks in Illinois did. So his tires were lasting longer up there than they did down here.
We didn't have much fall off when I raced there because we were on DOT tires.
Gotcha.
And our track would go so dry slick that you would hear tires squawing, just like you're at KMS.
That's a good sound, though.
You could see the black streak. I mean, you could see the lane of where everybody's running because it would slick off. You could go out there with a chisel and hammer at the end of the night and try to beat the dirt off of the track. It was compact.
Man, some of those tracks do get hard, real hard like that. And I know Eldora Speedway is one of those places that does do that. And man, the first night they had the truck race down there, and they tried to dig the dirt because the winner gets some of the dirt in a jar. I mean, they had to beat it with a hammer to even get a shovel into it. So.
It's amazing to think that you're racing on dirt, but it's literally hard as any road.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that dry slick is all about finesse and throttle control. That's all. And then my style is a little bit different. Like I know when James drives my car, he drives it different than I do.
Right.
I drive my car more straight up. I don't try to slide my car because I'm a dry slick driver. And guys that on a tacky track, you can slide the car, and because the car's free, and it will stick. But as it slicks off, if you can keep your car straight, it's actually faster.
Right.
And it's all about momentum. And luckily, I learned that very early in life. Momentum's everything. And that's like Windy Hollow. Once you get your momentum, you get in that groove. It's a super fast track. It's a lot of momentum, and it's a fast track.
Well, that's a stark contrast to when you think about Western Kentucky Speedway, is really long straightaways, but when you go in those corners, it's a super tight turning track, and it's hard to keep your momentum up there.
It is going into 3 and 4, but 1 and 2 you can keep your momentum up pretty good.
Right. But it's fun though. I mean, I will give it that. It's a lot of fun changing from where you're just hammered down at Windy Hollow,
right,
to having to come down
to
a
work.
lot of speed, and then having to make those corners.
And one of the greatest thing is when we bought our car we have currently, we the most fun I've ever had in a race car is we put an extra seat in it, and I decided I was going to give my son a scare, and I put him in the car with me, and I didn't, we made sure we bought him a fire suit, we bought him a helmet, and we put seat belts and everything in there for him.
All right.
Window net, everything, and I didn't really think about it, and I never really looked at the car to think about his vision, but we made sure he could see out of the car, but we didn't really look at it. And I went out there and I was racing my heat race, and it was amazing because my first race with him in the car, we jumped out the lead, and I'm like, he's going to get to see, firsthand what it feels like to be out front.
Yeah.
And I'm putting it on the high side, and I'm like, this is good. And well, on the last lap, going into turn 1, I get freight trained, and I didn't have any spares, so I just kind of let off of it because I actually had a car get into me a little bit. So I let off, and And then I looked over and he's just peppered because I didn't think anything about a window screen for him in front of him. It is wide open. Here I'm covered, but he's not. And then we went to Nebo and ran Nebo with him in it, and we actually ran an enduro. And we were running the enduro, and I got so tickled because I was covered in mud. I looked over and I said, "Hey, can you hold my glasses?" Because I couldn't see out of them. So I took my glasses off, handed it to him, and he's holding my glasses, and he's just covered in mud. And I'm just like, poor little guy.
But it was a great experience, and I'm sure he had a blast, being in there with you.
He did, and I thought that would jumpstart him into racing, but I don't understand. My kid doesn't want to race.
Well, I mean, some of us, started out that way as young kids. Growing up, I would never think that this is where I'd be sitting today. So, who knows? I mean, it might happen.
Yeah, but if I got a chance at age of 15 to be in a car, I don't care what it was, I would have been in it.
Well, I think, we just interviewed Eric Wetstein last week, and he was talking about how it was important for him as a kid to be out in the garage with his dad, and that was, the bonding time that he had with his dad. And you hear those stories over and over again. Nathan had stories like that. You've got, when you have families that are generational racers, like the Estises and the Falloways, and, that's something that they grew up with, the kids grew up with. I just think that there's something cool about that because it's sharing those experiences, and maybe he might come around and maybe, he might see exactly how cool it is, or see a pretty girl at the track and want to impress her, who knows?
Well, the funny thing is, and I might sidetrack here, when we did move back here, he was, our first, and then he was 4 years old. We bought him a four-wheeler, and we said, okay, we're going to start racing four-wheelers. And we took him to race four-wheelers. And his first year, he did okay. And he actually won his first championship. And I was trying to explain to him what a championship was. And he said, "Dad, how many championships do you race? Do you win?"
Ouch.
And I said, "Well, son, it's a little bit different."
Yeah.
And I tried to explain, the difference, Mommy and Daddy helped you win that championship because you're the only kid that showed up to all the races.
Right.
You won it by just showing up. He wouldn't have won it if there was a little girl from Tennessee. She would hit and miss, because she had a long travel. We were racing DuQuoin Fairgrounds indoor in Greenville. I think we went down to Sturgis once or twice and raced indoor a winter series for kids.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's for everybody. It's ATV, motorcycles, flat track, and we did that a couple years. And he did really well until he got hurt, and then once he got hurt, he kind of just, I'm done. And then we had our youngest one come up, and he was a baby at those races,
right?
But he was itching. He's like, well, so we're not. David got a four-wheeler when he was 4. When do I get mine? I don't think we could handle him.
Well, eventually, he can get a four-wheeler, and that's a race car. So.
Yeah. But I don't think we can handle it.
You're gonna have to build a bigger stable there for him, buddy.
Yeah. Well, we did that for a while, and it was pretty cool. We met a lot of people, and the really cool thing is we lived here in Owensboro, and my cousin raced four-wheelers too, and I helped him set up his quad. Mm-hmm. And he raced, I forget what division, but the cool thing is one day I looked over and there's Dwayne Richardson and Clay Davis and DuQuoin.
Wow.
And I'm like, Owensboro guys. And then there was a young gentleman, Jake Lewis, I think he's from Owensboro, around here, mm-hmm. that raced motorcycle. So it was kind of cool seeing, guys that you see. Our first couple races, we saw those guys race Windy Hollow on dirt, and how they were racing quads in the wintertime to stay active,
Right.
And it was pretty cool to see them, trying different things.
Well, it's neat how it's a small world sometimes, and especially with motorsports, you can reach across, genres of and classes and different forms of it, and you don't have to just be stuck in, just stock car racing or drag racing or what have you.
Right.
And you hear stories, of people, still Cole Falloway, go-karts and stock cars. Charlie Medford, go-karts and stock cars, and I understand, these are younger drivers, but even Eric Greer, he has an asphalt car, and I ran into him at Rockport Raceway, and he's running the go-karts out there. So, it's just anything to stay active, I guess, and where racing is, stock car racing is a summer sport. You do have indoor events like go-karts or quads where you do get to do things during the wintertime.
Well, and it's neat because some of the dirt track stuff, of course, with the Chili Bowl and things like that, you can run indoors, but we don't currently, other than the dome race, for late models and modifieds, and now they're adding quarter midgets there, but we don't have a whole lot we can do indoors like that to stay active during the wintertime.
No, I think most people are in the garage trying to do their homework.
Yeah.
But then about January, that cabin fever starts sitting in, and you really start getting the itch, and you need to get out on the track. And it's I haven't experienced it yet. I'm going to watch you guys go through it first. Kind of let the madness set in.
Well, what I don't want to do is have to rebuild a car this winter like I have the past 2 winters. So that would be great. I'd be fine with that. But
See, I'm going the opposite way. I'm probably going to build a new car.
Hey,
it's never going to get a bad idea.
No, we kind of kicked around some ideas. We know our cars, it's nothing spectacular, and it's a beginner car. I mean, that's what it is. It's something to get out there, have fun. I feel comfortable in it, and I know there's a couple things that I should address that would make it 10 times better car, but you just there's just you do it.
No, that's right, and that's as long as you're racing, brother.
that's our thing.
That's the motto here. But you did talk about talk about having your children out there, and your son was riding with you, things like that. I want you to roll into something now that we talk about all the time, and that's some advice maybe you would give starting out. You know how you started, and we've learned that today. But maybe some advice to get some of these kids interested in racing and get them into the sport.
Yeah, I watch my own kids. They can't put the controller down to the Xbox.
Right.
They can't get off the computer or the tablet. It's right now. My youngest one, this last week, he's been looking forward to helping me on the race car. As soon as he got home yesterday, he's like, "We're working on the race car?" I'm like, "Yeah." Of course, it started pouring.
Yeah.
But after it started pouring, we were out there and he was with me, and we got quite a bit done. And I try to find little tasks that he can do by himself and try to build a time where, like, yeah, I might loosen up the shop bolts a little bit so he can get them loose, but normally he couldn't get them off,
Yeah.
But, the main thing is just getting out there and just being there. It doesn't matter if you're in the front or the back. It's just being out there and enjoying it and doing it for you or your fans or doing it for what you believe in. Did you almost fall?
No. No, I'm okay. We did not have a chair failure there.
That's good.
See, I could do it on command there.
Wow.
But no, you're right, man. You just haven't been out there and spending time with somebody and so letting somebody learn. I think that's one of the biggest things that, when I got a buddy of mine, William, into racing, and he coming out, started helping us, it was one of those things where, I wanted him to do some stuff himself because I think you'll respect it more, and especially younger guys, they feel more accomplished when they get to do it themselves.
Right. And that's like what I've been working with my youngest one. I've been let him try to do things, so he feels like he accomplishes something. And driver aspect, you know, coming in the sport, you know, a lot of people just want to go fast, right? Oh yeah, I'm a bleacher driver. I can do that, you know. And
you should mention that.
you know, everybody thinks it's easy. It's not as easy. You know, some people just have the ability to get in a car and they can wheel a car.
All you got to do is turn left.
Nah.
No, I mean that's
what
what you
they
got to do.
think.
That's what you got to do.
He learned how to drive from the bleachers.
I did
from the first night. I mean, come on, man, don't you know that?
It's just there's so many different people's styles. You know, I have a little bit different style than you know. My aspect is I let James Dockery drives my car.
Right.
And we made a deal last year. You know, I wanted him to be in my car, and I wanted to stand back and be able to learn. You know, he's pretty good at rusty bolts.
right.
And I mean, you show up. There's two people you want to beat. You want to beat when you go to Cedar, and I've kind of made Cedar my new home. So, you want to beat Mike Boone, and you want to beat James Dockery. And like when I would show up in Michael's car, I didn't want to be, I just showed up and no one knew me, so it was unexpected. And we had some really good runs down there, and we almost had some really good luck down there, and we got penalized because in racing, and this is a good advice on this starting and learning, restarts are so important. You can gain up so much position on a restart that someone's going to give you. Aggressiveness on restarts is a positive for you as a driver. I'm not going to say I'm great at it, but I'm pretty decent at restarts. And it's quite funny. I got to drive a big Monte Carlo this year. James let me drive his big car, and I started on front pole. And it's been a couple years since I've been in a car with a stick. And I got out of the car, and he looked at me. He said, when you did that start, he said, I thought they were going to eat your lunch. I was like, they never had a chance. Because I knew on the start, I actually put them to sleep. and the whole thing is the way I did it is this the mechanism, my mechanics of taking off. I look like I got shot out of a cannon. I mean, and he does it totally different. He grabs the clutch, revs it up, and dumps the clutch and takes off. I never touch a clutch. I mean, it's just so different, And we communicate that a little bit,
Right.
But on a driver coming up, the main thing is just finding something you can afford to do, to be out there and try to make friends with someone that in that division that's successful, because everybody wants to help everybody, even if it's your main competition. Usually people tell you, hey, I run this spring, or I do this, or because they don't want you to go out there and your car be all over the place. Because what's going to happen is if you are all over the place, you might slow them down. And that's what happened in California. Everybody would tell everybody, hey, to get faster, why don't you do this? Or, go do your homework on the scales.
Right.
Do this, to help. Because they didn't want, a new guy coming in and slowing down the whole field. Because you got to work around traffic and stuff,
Right.
So, I mean, main thing is hold your line.
Do that. Don't be all over the racetrack. That is a good piece of advice. That definitely is. Well, Jeff, we're going to go ahead and take another quick break right here, and we'll come back on the other side, kind of get into some social media and the state of racing.
All right.
Let's face it, we love racing. We need to keep those race machines in tip-top shape to stay competitive. That's why we rely on Mark V race cars and parts located at 2035 West 2nd Street in Owensboro, Kentucky. They specialize in stock cars, but you'll find all the parts you need for your racing go-karts as well. They are your go-to experts for parts, wheels, tires, fuel, and a wide variety of other items to keep you on the track. They have hundreds of parts in stock and can special order thousands of others. Give John Hayden a call at 270-240-5587.
And back from the break again. Jeff, I want to roll into something real quick, buddy, that's a hotbed issue these days, and has been more so here of late. Social media and racing. And I know it's sometimes a hard topic to talk about, but sometimes it's an easy topic to talk about depending on what your feeling is on it. And we'd love to know what your stance is on it.
Social media helps it a little bit, but really hurts it because people say stuff on social media that don't even know what's going on, or they don't know, well, so-and-so's winning because they're track favorite.
Right.
Well, track don't have favorites.
Correct.
I mean, they don't. We all show up to race,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody shows up because if we knew who win, what would be the sense of coming, anyways?
Right.
Any given night you'd like to see a different winner or your driver. Social media. Trying to stay away from that. That's a bad question.
Well, you have a very unique perspective on it because you're a business owner. You're a business owner with Wicked Carb. So you want to promote your business. You want to get more customers coming in, and social media is great for that. Your wife does lettering, so you want to promote that. You want to get more, visibility for that. You're part of JT Motorsports, which, for better or worse, and I'm not saying anything out of line toward Trenton and James, two of kind of the most infamous drivers in this area. People love to hate the wagon.
Right.
They love to vocalize their opinions on it. So you're kind of part of that. So you see that aspect of it, and then you're a driver yourself who wants to go out to these tracks and do good on the tracks, and then you got people on social media running down the tracks.
Right.
So you've got a lot of different eyes on it.
It's in this day and age, I would not want to be a promoter. I mean,
That's a hard job.
it is a real hard job, and they take a lot of heat. I mean, they do take a lot of heat, and social media, I feel like there's a lot of track bashing or driver bashing, but the main thing is it's what someone says on social media doesn't mean it's the truth.
Well, I think that's important to make sure that we remember that, because a lot of times you talk about grandstand drivers. Well, you've got those on social media as well, and keyboard tough guys, whatever.
Right.
And again, we're not smashing anybody out, but here's the thing, when you get on there and intentionally make a post about not you yourself, you know what I'm saying though, but somebody gets on there that makes a post about something that happened at Cedar Ridge Speedway,
Right.
Windy Hall Speedway, Western Kentucky Speedway, whatever, it's going to be, they were not in the pits, they were not in the infield.
Right.
Right.
They don't have no clue.
That's right. And I think that's where we get off in the ditch. And then, Eric Wetstein said a couple of things last episode when he was talking about it, that don't give it any legs. Don't play into it.
Yeah, don't add the fuel to the fire.
Right. Because inadvertently, somebody's going to get on there and you've got quip number 1. Well, that's got to have quip number 2 from this guy. Well, then now that stirs this guy 1 back up. Then guy 3 gets in it because he's got an opinion on the subject. And the next thing you know, it's just like, Wes said, you got the Michael Jackson eating the popcorn gif, and then you've got the big eyes come out, and
Right.
Jimmy Westerfield talks about the big eyes all the time.
He does.
He's like, there'll be something posted, and here come the big eyes. Well, it's because everybody wants to know, hey, what are you gonna say, man?
It's good and bad, because you think about it, no matter what, they're drawing people negatively to a comment or to something that happened. But the thing is they're still talking about the track,
Right.
or this or this driver.
So it's kind of that whole there is no bad publicity kind of attitude a little bit, maybe.
I try and I know personally I do not try to reply to comments.
It's hard sometimes.
It's
I will
hard.
agree.
I've got myself deleting my message as I'm typing it because I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to that level? Let's not be there.
Well, and I think for me, and I'm not justifying any grandstand driver, but I think a lot of the people who are fans, who enjoy the sport, that have never stepped into a pit, who have never walked through the pits to see what you guys, and I'm not going to classify myself with you because I'm not a driver. I don't put in the work like you guys do.
Yet.
But to see what you guys do on a daily basis, it changes your attitude. It changes your opinion. You see a driver and you look at them and you may have a preconceived notion, but then you walk a couple steps in their shoes and it's like, this is different. So I think, maybe if there was some kind of, I'm not looking like to start a program like Train a Fan Day or anything, but I mean, if these fans would take a little bit more time, get more invested than just sitting in the stands, go talk to a driver, ask them questions. If the driver wins every time, ask them, what is it that you do? Why is it that you do? Learn about it. And I think that you're never going to fix stupid, but you can do what you can to try to help make it less stupid, I guess.
I think you're right, man. And I think that I find myself sometimes doing this, and being a driver and have drove for a fair bit of time, I feel like, of course, in the stands, I know more about what's going on.
Right.
What's going on the track and why moves were made or what happened. But then again, I've got to make sure, I've got to check myself sometimes because I'm like, I don't know the whole story. I don't know what led up to that. I don't know what, you know what I mean?
Well, it's just like I catch myself in a situation, like I'm in the pits, I'm watching the racing. Someone said, "Oh, so and so took so and so out," and you're like, "No, that was hard racing."
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the difference between hard racing or driving someone dirty? There's a big difference, and a lot of people don't understand that.
What's your favorite saying?
What?
Your favorite saying?
Oh yeah, it's going to be fair. We all lose. That's for sure. I did not. That's not my phrase. I like it, but it's not mine.
It's funny. A lot of people don't understand. Like when you're in a race car, you're in control of your car, and we're talking about going back and forth here, but when you're in control of your car, you got to put your car on the edge or close to the edge. And like, I know I can put my car comfortably, even though I've only drove it twice this year, but I can take my car, I can run it on the corner, and I can put it right next to you and know I'm not going to touch you because I know my ability to where to put it, without dirty driving you. And you can fender drive somebody and get a little intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny to watch people, oh my God, they pull the opposite way,
Right.
But we're talking about social media.
Well, no, but it all kind of plays into the same thing because it's the expectation of the person watching the race. Because the person watching the race doesn't realize or doesn't think about the fact that you guys don't have mirrors.
Right.
You don't know where other cars are on the track. You have to use your senses. You have to listen for the other engines. You have to listen for the other motors to know if you can pass, if you know you can move up in a line. You have to, you're dealing with dirt. You're dealing with a fogged up face shield. You're dealing with mud on your face shield.
Right.
There's just so much stuff that you guys deal with that it makes it so much more difficult than just turning left.
It does. And, the worst sense you want to have is the feeling, the guy behind you trying to move you to, hey, I'm here. We kind of have it's not like a code, but we had the, hey, I tap you twice. That means get out of the way.
That's right.
Third time, it's not my problem, buddy.
Well, and I've learned from talking to Nathan and other drivers, your responsibility as a driver is to find your line, pick your line, hold your line.
Right.
The guy behind you is going to take that line from you no matter what it takes, and it's your responsibility to hold it. You're going to do the same thing to the guy in front of you. You're going to take that line from him. So if you're driving clean and you're not trying to drive through somebody, it's a big, big difference than someone who's just out there to wreck people and get hurt, which sometimes happens. We've seen races all go Sideways, and sometimes it happens when there's a ton of cars on the track. Sometimes it happens when there are novice drivers on the track. Nobody knows what causes it. It just happens sometimes.
It can. It's each driver is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Like once you put the helmet on, it might be your best friend next to you.
Mm-hmm.
But once you put the helmet on, is he your true friend? Is a true friend, or are you going to race? You're going to race him as hard as you can and make sure you don't give any real estate up? Or are you going to, hey, I'm going to check up because I know this guy, he needs, as much real estate as he can,
Nope.
No, you're going to take it.
Every time.
Well, and that's the competitive nature of a driver, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's the whole purpose of our podcast being called the Bent Fender Podcast is, sometimes you get bent feelings, sometimes you get bent fenders.
Right.
Work it out on the track,
Or even after.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to, after the races you have a bad night, maybe go own up to what you did, and say, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Sure.
Well, and that's the thing is a lot of people don't, those guys need to work it out, but it needs to be the two drivers.
Right.
Or 5 drivers if y'all got to pile up, whatever. But it needs to be the 2 drivers, and they need to go and somewhere where there's not people, there's
Right.
not, sometimes you call the pit area a cornfield, man, because there's so many ears around, but you just don't have, you don't need everybody in it, and if the track promoter's got to go with you to mediate, whatever you got to do. But just, that's it. Though you guys work it out and go home. And if you can't find a medium, happy medium that night, we'll talk about it next week. You know what I mean? But just don't, that's the thing. Don't get on social media. Don't drag it with you. Let your wife get on there, your girlfriend, your buddy, or your brother, and get on there and just start running them down. I was bull crap. Track lets this go on, and every week we get wrecked, and I ain't never coming back here, and this and that. But if they make a bad call, they made a bad call. That's
Own it, though.
Yeah, and they'll be like, hey, man, guys, we screwed up. That's it. But if they make a bad call, they made a bad call.
Own it, though.
That's it. Yeah, and they'll be like, hey, man, guys, we screwed up. That's it. And it don't need to go a bad call. If they make a bad call, they made a bad call. That's it.
Own it, though.
Yeah, and they'll be like, hey, man, guys, we screwed up. That's it. And it don't need to go any farther than that.
Right.
Go any farther than that.
All right. Dead squashed right there.
Yeah, because you're not going to restart the race. Come
No.
on. Let's just be real.
I had an incident. We had a rule. White flag comes out, nothing comes out besides the checker.
Mhm.
Well, I was running second. Well, they threw caution.
Right.
So then I fell back to third.
Revert back to that.
And I finished third. I was just like any other driver. I was upset. I told the promoter about it. He come over a little bit later and said, hey, you got second. I was like, great. I was like, hey, you're going to do something about it. He said, no, the guy in front of you got disqualified, so that moved you up a spot. I was like, so now you're telling me I would have won.
Yeah.
Thanks. But, I didn't fault him for that. I was mad at first, but, you get over the little things.
Right.
My favorite thing, we were at KMS. I was driving a friend's car, Michael's, and after the races, we kind of put on a little show. We spun out and made a big old smoke show. This little 8-10-year-old kid come over. He said, "Who drives this car?" I said, "Well, I drove it." He looked at me. He looked at the car, the window, and looked at me again. He said, "You drive this car?" I said, "Yeah, I drove that car." He said, "Well, you did a heck of a smoke show." I said, "I appreciate that." And he said, "You sure you drive this car? You're kind of a big guy to get in that window." And to this day, I'll never forget that kid's name, Trevor. And me and Michael laugh about it all the time.
Well, that is pretty funny, man, because, kids say the daggum things, man. They say
the
funny
truth.
stuff. And
They make TV shows about it.
They do. Well, man, we'll get off social media and we'll talk about some other stuff here that, really is a hot button issue. Well, we like to ask everybody about it. But the state of racing now, where are we at locally, man? What are we doing? What are we doing well? What could we improve on? I mean, where are we going with this thing?
That is a great question, and you see great strides. You can see good car counts, and then all of a sudden you don't see car counts. I think a lot of activities around Owensboro. Owensboro has a lot of things going on. I know, like this year, Wendy decided to do Fridays, and I think not saying that something else took away, but 5 after 5 on Fridays takes a lot of people downtown. That probably hurt a little bit. Promoters, it's just so hard to be a promoter, to keep the fans in the seats, to have action,
Right.
But there are enough cars around this area that all the tracks can be prosperous. I know this. I would love to see more of a sanctioned body of a car, like a ruling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that would hurt some cars, and some people might have. You do things so long, you have your pattern, but everybody can make changes.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm a Rusty Bolt driver and car owner. I'm not saying to kill Rusty Bolts, but we have 3 divisions that look identical, and I'll be honest with you, as competitive as the Bombers have gotten, their Bombers are turning the same time as Rusty Bolts.
Yep.
If not faster. And, Rusty Bolts have less cubic inch than the Bomber guys, So, it's quite interesting in the state of racing right now.
Well, I think, one thing you're picking out here is, and we've heard a couple people talk about this, is that, if we can bring a sanctioning body in, just say UMP, somebody like that, or, for your cruiser cars / street stocks, you've got access there to a set of rules that most of the time, without little bitty tweaks, are not going to change.
Right. You're going to have some guys that want the rules their way. A lot of people are going to, if you're used to running on Hoosiers, you want to be on Hoosiers. You don't want to go backwards to DOT tires. You don't want to take a backward step, because what you've been on for the last 10 years has been Hoosier tires. But what would it hurt to have a division, a DOT division, like a cruiser car, 360 cubic inch, 3,400 pound weight roll? Limit some stuff, but don't limit,
Yeah.
Well, you said something. You've said it a couple times today, and everybody knows that I'm new to the racing world, and the first time I went to races was last July, and sitting in the stands with Nathan and his wife Sarah, you see the Rusty Bolts come out and they run their heat, and then I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Those cars look great, and then the Bombers come out and run their heat, and I was like, didn't we just see these cars run?
right.
And he's like, no, this is the Bombers. Then the cruisers come out, and I'm like, but the cars they're identical. And
Right.
even still today, walking around doing at the AMS show, I would walk up to a driver who was standing in front of a modified, open wheel modified, and I would ask them before I started talking to them, is this a B mod? Is it an A-mod? You know, what E-mod? What kind of car are you driving? Is this a late model, super late model? You know, and I think that for the casual fan, I understand that the guts of the car are what makes the difference. You know, but for the casual fan in the stands, looking at them, they all look the damn same.
Right. I mean, dang.
Easy now. Easy. Just I see you're getting all upset about it.
No. I mean, I think they've tried to do the UMP, and I don't know why it never held together.
Right.
It's if it happens, the sanctioning body happens, it's got to be enforced.
Right.
I mean, and it's got to be right there. I mean, in California, the big sanctioning body is IMCA, and it's a big. I mean, but the only thing that's really IMCA sanctioned out there is the modifieds. Everything else is
kind of at your track. Whatever.
Your track rules, you know. So the only sanctioned bodies is for mods. So but it's successful in Iowa, you know. IMCA is, I mean, real successful. I mean, you can go. Lost my train of thought. You look at other divisions. You look at the Sarasota,
Wissota.
Yeah, Wissota. You know, they've got their sanctioning rules. They've got their own divisions where people can run for national points.
All right.
You know, that's pretty cool. I mean, it would be great to see, just like Western Kentucky, get together and say, "Hey, here's our tracks. Why don't we have a series, a best of 3 series, three events at your track, 3 events at this track, and 3 events at my track, or if there's 4, you know, more."
Right.
And then have a touring series, because you're going to bring people. You're going to have your normal guys for other divisions, but if you had modifieds, had a touring modified series, that, you know, you have your AMS, which is basically your touring modified series now.
Right.
But if you had a track championship at Western Kentucky or something, have 3 races, you know, throughout the year. So like you give, say you start your first race, second race or third race of Windy Hollow would be your first race, and then Cedar Ridge would be, and then Nebo would be, you know, your third race, you know,
Right.
throughout the season, and mix it up a little bit.
Well, and not just having, you know, and you're right, having a series, and these are all good things because, you know, Wes has talked about a couple of times maybe having a, you know, turf war, you know, where different
North versus South, like.
yeah, something like that.
Because, I mean, like in this area, you know, the 2 predominant tracks are Windy Hollow and Cedar Ridge.
Right.
You know, Western Kentucky's coming back, so, you know, but you've got guys that run primarily and predominantly at Windy. You've got guys that run primarily at Cedar. So make teams. You know, you've got a Windy Hollow team and you've got a Cedar Ridge team, and you're representing that track, and you run a series. You know, the Cedar Ridge guys come up here and they run against the Windy guys, and it's a special race, and then vice versa. And you know, you then have a turf war champion or whatever.
Yeah, who can win the most, you know, in the series. And, you know, they used to have, I don't know, they had King of the Holler at one time. And I think they had the street stock, something like that, and it was a couple of different tracks, King of Clay or King of the Dirt and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that ideas like this have been tried, but I don't know, you know, maybe we should look at some things. I mean, it doesn't have to be something that you run, you know, a lot.
Right.
But, you
like,
know,
maybe once or twice a year, like maybe the first 2 months, Windy Hollow gets the first 2 races.
Right.
And then the next 2 months, Cedar Ridge gets the 2 races.
right.
I just think
Or, you know, mix them up. You know, 1 and 1, 1 and 1.
You know, or maybe, you know, if Western Kentucky comes back and they start building their following and they get a good track and people want to go there, they have a team too.
Right.
You know, and I just think that if the tracks are within, you know, X amount of hours or driving distance, it only serves to benefit the racing community as a whole if everybody participates and everybody, you know, plays nice.
Well, I mean, and the thing I don't understand, I do understand, but I don't. Chandler is right across the road, right across the river. And a lot of guys don't go there because it's hard to make a Friday night. I mean, Friday night's because your average worker is working Monday through Friday, unless you have an off shift schedule. But it's so hard to race.
I know.
It's so hard to race on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your Saturday and Sundays are open, and I mean, even up north, I think they raced on Thursdays and Fridays and.
Yeah, I mean, Attica and I know Attica has like Wednesday races and Thursday races, and they have packed tracks all the time. I just think a lot of it has to do with setting the expectation, following through with the expectation, and putting on a show that people want to come to. You know, from a fan's perspective, having racing at Windy on Friday, having racing at Cedar on Saturday, and KMS on Sunday, I freaking loved it. You know, because as a fan, I got a full weekend of shows.
Right.
You know, and I get, you know, being a driver and how difficult and how, you know, it is to get ready on a Friday and make it to the track by the time, you know, you get off work and all that stuff. So I don't know what the answer is there, but it's just, are we doing it to put the money in our pockets, or are we doing it for the show and the love of the sport?
I think everyone does it for the love of the sport. I mean, you gotta love. When I started, my dad told me, he said, "You're gonna love this sport, or you're gonna hate it." He said, "What money you think you have, dig a hole in the backyard, and bury all the money you think you're gonna have, because that's what racing is. It's just a big black pit you're throwing your money in.
Mm-hmm.
You're never gonna make money at this." And he was right. I mean, I seen it. Then he actually tried to get me put an hour meter in my car. So he said, put an hour meter in your race car, and you go out there and you race it. At the end of the night, you write down how many tenths you spent in your car, because you're not spending a whole hour. And then you have to decide if all that work on that car that you're working on is worth those tenths of your life. And I was like, that's a good way to think of it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just must be one of those lucky ones that love it, because I'm going to do it.
Well, and you're still doing it, man, and that's the cool part about it. But, you know, it's fun to sit around and brainstorm and try to think of some different things that we maybe haven't thought of, and everybody's got a different perspective, because, you know, you can bring some knowledge from different places and things like that, and that's always welcome here, and especially into the conversation.
I hope that, you know, one day somebody's listening to this and they hear, you know, one of these ideas that we throw out, you know, and they're like, you know something, that's a great idea, and we're going to make it happen, and it does. You know, and I think that the sport can only progress. I think that sport can only get better, but we have to have open communication, and we have to want to make it better.
But it also needs, from drivers and fans, it needs help itself, you know. Just like Nathan grabbed you and took you to your first race. He helped the motorsport. He brought you in. Mm-hmm. It's the little things.
And look at me now.
Yeah. 3 nights and you love it.
Head's bigger than any door. Can't get into a car because my head's too big.
I know, buddy. There's nothing. You can't even talk to you now.
Nope.
You're too big for us.
I'm going to progress to NASCAR now.
That's right.
That's where I'm going from here.
But yeah, you're right, and that's a big thing. Is just that one little thing of getting somebody, bring them to the racetrack, get somebody interested in the sport. Then they tell their friends, and you know, and pretty soon, you got a group of guys, a group of girls, or whatever going to the racetrack. I mean, you know, every time they run.
Right. You know, I've listened to your podcast several times, and you know,
Well, we appreciate that.
Pretty cool to find out how you got started into racing.
It's nothing special.
No, but I mean, just think. I mean,
yeah.
The difference of taking someone there, inviting a friend, bringing them to the races, bring your neighbor, you know,
right?
Anybody.
Well, I think that story rings true so many times because Lee Michael Tierney, you know, that's how he got involved in it, and look at where he's at in his career,
right.
You know, and you hear it over and over and over again. bring somebody to the races, and you never know if it's going to spawn the interest in it, or if you're going to, they could be a fan for life, they could be a driver, or they could be like me after last year and be like, it was dirty, and I was hot, and I was sweaty, I'm never going back. But I did, and I just think that it's a big machine, and we're all parts of it, and we just have to keep doing what we do to make it great.
I agree. Jeff, we appreciate you coming on the show, buddy, and coming down here and taking some time working on your race car, trying to get it ready for the weekend. Hopefully it doesn't rain, and it's going to be a good deal if it doesn't. So
you know where we're going with this next, though, before Nathan gets off in a ditch. Tell us who helps you get to where you're at. Tell us who makes this possible for us. This is your sponsors' time.
Well, sponsors, we are funded by ourselves. We don't really have any sponsors. We haven't got out there to get any sponsors. Everything's just out of our pocket.
I've had the old wallet sponsor before.
Well,
yeah,
still do.
But I do. I shouldn't say that. I know that JT Wheel and Tire has helped. We've used their shop and stuff like that.
Right.
That's a tremendous sponsor, and sometimes a lot of people have got burnt on sponsorships, and it's hard to get sponsorships.
Well, I think you guys doing it out of your pocket. I think that gives you a much better appreciation for what you're doing, because you care about your equipment more. And I'm not saying that guys that have tons of sponsors don't, but that if I break this wedge bolt, it's going to come out of my pocket, and I have to pay for it out of my pocket, and I might not be able to, I have to make the decision. Am I going to, take the family to a movie, or am I going to put it in the car? So I think it gives you much more of an appreciation for what you do, and I think that means a lot. So, don't discount the fact that, you guys are running out of your own pocket.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how many more races we're going to do this year. We were going to run a full season, but we were going to have someone drive our car, and I was going to sit back and take notes and get ideas to get better. And we got a lot of our answers we needed of the stuff we built for this year. So it's kind of like a tuning year.
Right.
So I'm happy with what I've got, the information I've gotten, and I'm happy with, I actually have more help from friends that are there helping me if I have a flat tire, or helping me change this, it's, I've got a couple messages since I've been here, hey, what do you got left on your car? It's the people around you that help you, your pit crew, and that's pretty much our sponsor right now.
Well, they'd love to get a mention, so you better tell us who all helps you out, buddy.
Well, James Dockery, Michael Clark, he was a huge help today. Michael stopped by and helped me. James, Trent, Brooks, Robert Philback. I've had help from Jake Campton. I've even had help from Mikey Gray.
Oh, Mikey.
Mikey Gray. Everyone has contacts, and everybody helps.
We're a family, man.
I was just like, I'll throw a shout out. I had a flat tire the other night, Windy Hollow, on my car trailer. Jamie Castile stopped, fired up his air compressor, and aired up our trailer tire so we can get home.
All right.
Most people just go on, they can figure it out. But, not all crews have the same equipment,
Yep.
That's true. And it just takes that one little bit of help. You know what I mean?
That's what I love about racing is everybody will help each other, or you just don't just run off and leave somebody sitting on the side of the road or at the racetrack. You try to help.
Yeah, we were at with the modified series this weekend. We were in it was Farmer City, and they were getting ready for the A main, and a driver comes running, just hauling tail into Gabriel's pit, and he was like, "Hey, do you guys have a center link?" And didn't know this guy. None of us knew this driver. We weren't local. But Gabe was like, "Yeah, come on." And he ran up into his trailer, grabbed the center link, handed it to the dude. Dude took off, and that was it. It's dude needed something. Gabe could help. He helped. And I think this industry, this community, you see that time and time and time again. Nathan needed a distributor at Cedar Ridge. I was going to mash the two tracks together.
Cedar Hollow.
Windy Ridge.
Windy Ridge.
At Cedar Ridge, and he found one in the pits, and it's was it Shane Woodall?
Shane Woodall.
Shane Woodall, hooked him up with a distributor, so you can't beat the camaraderie and the family.
It is like it's a big extended family. I mean, that's what a lot of the guys are. Even if they're your competition, even if they're your competitor or you're racing tooth and nail with them, they usually will give you whatever they have to help you.
That's important, and we've all got to be that way. I mean, you can't think of everything when you come to the racetrack, and you can't bring the whole garage, even though some guys try. But you can't bring everything. So occasionally you're going to need a quart of oil, or you're going to need a belt,
Right.
Something like that, and it helps. So.
And I mean, if you're my competitor, and we put on a good show every week, and I know that you're down, and I know that you not being on the track isn't going to give the fans a good enough show, why not help you? Why not get you back out on the track so we can put on a good show?
That's the main thing. It's about the show.
I think
It's
so.
about the show. That's what's going to keep the fans coming.
I think so. So, where can they find Jeff Christensen on the interwebs?
And Wicked Carburetors.
Wicked Carburetors on Facebook is our website, or not website, but our web page or Facebook page. I'm all messed up here right now, crossed up. That's pretty much it. We're not real. We're small. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
So
I like it.
Wicked Carbs on Facebook. For all your carburetor needs.
Carburation.
Right.
That's right. I like it. Well, Jeff, appreciate you coming on, buddy, and we hope you come back anytime, man. You got an open spot, and come back and hang out with us and talk, and we'll catch up with you on some of the stuff you've done. Maybe you're going to get back in that driver's seat full time, and we'll be able to be talking about some wins or some crashes or some spills, thrills, whatever. No crashes. We don't need none of that.
No, because I still need to drive his car.
That's right. Yeah. That's going to be a good deal.
I still need to do it.
So, Jeff, appreciate it, buddy, and from everybody here, the two of us, we appreciate you
coming on. That would be everybody, the two of us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. We'll be back after the break and close this episode down.
Breakdowns, collisions, lockouts. Things can happen on the road at any time. That's why you should call Martin's Towing and Recovery. We have years of experience to help you in your time of need. Within minutes, we can provide you towing services, jump starts, gas refills, and even unlock services to get you back on the road. We are proud to be able to provide honest, dependable service that our customers have come to trust. Please give us a call 24 hours a day at 270-929-0718 for all your automotive emergency needs.
And we're back from the break there, man. We got the checkered flag flying. And Jeff, man, he came on and gave a great interview, man, and come on and told us some stories. And what I thought was the coolest part about it was talking about the differences being in California racing versus right here in Kentucky.
I've not gotten a lot of opportunity to hang out with Jeff in the world. He's a chill dude. He just seems like nothing really rattles him much. And sitting here talking to him, it was a cool vibe, and it kind of brought everything down, and it was cool. I enjoyed hearing his stories, and you may have noticed I jumped on the mic because I do get jealous sometimes.
Yeah.
I do feel like I need to participate.
Well, and that's okay, man, because that's what it is, man. We do this show together, and normally I'm the guy on the mic most of the time with the guests, but there's never been a time where you could not have come on and talked and asked some questions and things you might have been wondering, and that was one of those times today, and last time with the Eric Wetstein's episode, and it was a pretty cool deal.
I like it. I enjoy it, and the more that I get comfortable around this sport, and the more that I know about the sport, I can speak more intelligently about it and not sound like an idiot. Because back in like the first couple days, a couple episodes, I did sound like an idiot, and
I did too.
It was just very stiff, and I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I was trying to do something that I shouldn't have been doing, and I should have just been myself from the start. So, right. Jeff's a great guy, and he made me get all kinds of butterflies at Windy Hollow when he told me I could drive his car, and I was nervous as all get out, and I was like, I have to do it, even though I'm probably going to puke, hopefully not in his car. I have to do it to see what it's like. And
again, it was crazy, but through a series of unfortunate events, things happen. But maybe we didn't really talk to him about it, but out of the kindness of his heart, and maybe one day that opportunity will present itself again, and maybe we can have some fun with it.
I think the thing that I've learned,
we'll video it.
Well, I've
Facebook Live.
Like Jake Shown.
Yeah.
No, what I've learned is Jeff's car and a Uke tire don't go work well together.
I'm gonna tell you right now, most cars and Uke tires don't work well together.
It is not two great tastes that go great together.
Well, them radiators don't like it.
No, but you can twist them. You can
you can twist them.
You can tie them in a bow, and he almost did.
They did. It was pretty gnarly looking, and his transmission didn't fare much better.
It did not.
But we have talked to him since then, and those guys are working hard on that car, and trying to get it together. And Jeff's one of those guys where. And I can tell you from personal experience, man, a lot of us have garages and fortunate enough to have that. Jeff, had a garage at one point when, and since some things had happened, and he has gone out of that part of his business there. But, he's another guy who's just common as dirt, working on his car in the driveway on jack stands. That's what it's all about, guys. Well, that's where it started.
I think, we talk about local racers, and hopefully you guys listened to my time with Kenny Wallace, where he was talking about the local racer is a beautiful thing, because they know that they're not going to go run in the NASCAR Cup Series. They know that they're not going to get rich off of this. They know that they're going to put their blood, sweat, and tears in their car. And, Jeff's no different. We talked about it, and they are self-funded race team. And, that's a pretty cool deal. I just think that to me, and I'm putting myself in his shoes, but I think that means so much more that, he appreciates the quality of his equipment and wants to take care of it much, much more because it comes out of his pocket at the end of the day.
That's right. And that's what makes you respect it a whole lot more. That's what makes you take care of it on the racetrack, because he's not a type of guy that takes major chances trying to ramp over other cars just to get a heat win or whatever else like that. It's not worth tearing his stuff up because he's got to fix it, and he knows
right.
that. And that's what the backbone of this sport is, man. People are still doing that stuff. He talked about Michael Clark. It's no secret Michael Clark's my cousin. Michael Clark helps on my car some, and if it wasn't for Jeff and Michael, my car wouldn't be running.
Right.
We were able to post that video because the motor's running, and it's running exceedingly well for my standards right now. And knock on wood, anything can happen, but at this time it's running well, and we feel really good about it because the car hasn't run this well in a few years. So I'm pretty happy about it, and not tooting my own horn there or anything like that, talking about our race team. But if it wasn't for Jeff doing the work on those heads and Michael lending us the heads, we wouldn't be in this position.
But that echoes what we said earlier in the show, and it is about family. It is about making sure that the guys that you have a good relationship with, or even a mediocre relationship, but the guys that you want to see on the track, it's about getting out there and helping them and making sure that the sport doesn't stop running for lack of drivers. So it's an awesome thing, and it's a reflection of Jeff and his heart and his love for this sport and his love for the people that participate in it. So for you, I'm gonna speak for you. I know that you're thankful and grateful, and I'm thankful because now I get to stop hearing you bitch about the car not running.
Yeah, it's hard to take sometimes, man, when your car's not running, and I know Jeff can he can definitely sympathize with that because it's a hard thing to deal with when you're a racer and you have a car that's not running. Or it's not running right.
And you guys love it, and it's in your blood, and it is a drug, a good drug. But you need it. You need to feel the car run. You need to see all the work you put into it work. You need to get that feeling of satisfaction that only you guys can get from running these machines. So.
Right. Well, we better quit pettering Jeff's butt because he might get embarrassed. We might embarrass him. But anyway, man, we thank him for coming on the show. We thank everybody that comes on the show. So now, house cleaning time, baby. We got sponsors, and we got lots of them. So Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, Martin's Towing Recovery, Red Star Graphics, Slingshot Media Group, Lori Kimball Home Realty, Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop, High Octane Racewear Graphics, and Apparel. We got it all.
You just reminded me of the Micro Machines guy.
That
was the one?
Yep.
That was the one.
And he didn't even, I don't even know if he said words.
No, I don't think so.
I think he's still alive, man.
Maybe. John Machida.
John Machida. That was him. Anyway, so if John Machida, if you're listening and you want to record a super fast episode, that would be awesome, man.
Or an intro.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, even though nobody will maybe understand it. So, if you want to find us on the web, you can find us at www.conwayracingteam.com. Also, thebentfenderpodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team. You can find us on Facebook for the podcast, The Bent Fender Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Conway Racing. You can find us on Twitter at Conway Race Team. If you want to find us on the podcast outlets, you can do so at Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn. Where's that? YouTube, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com.
Yep.
We've got it everywhere, man. So soon to be famous.
Hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hope so.
But anyway, so again, guys, we want to just recap a few things, what we said earlier in the show. Please don't take it the wrong way. If you have any questions about anything we've said, you can go ahead and contact us and do that. We, again, prefer that you don't do that on social media. Do not post on anything that we have posted and ask us any questions, but we will not answer them on a public forum. If you want to, it's not a secret, but we just don't prefer to air business out there. This goes along with what we said about social media. It's stupid to do that. It would look terrible of us. It would make somebody else look like a chump, and we're not going to do that. So we choose to take the high road. If you would like to, we can have a civilized conversation. If anybody from the radio station wants to contact us about anything that's transpired, they may do so. Anytime they would like to, and we will explain our position that has not changed since day one. So,
which they never wanted to hear our side.
No. So just putting that out there, they didn't want to hear it. So anyway, again, thanks to Jeff. Thanks to everybody that listens. Thanks for you for downloading. Thanks you for telling your friends. Please make sure you don't just like the post. Please share the post when you do it. Share the webpage. Give us recommendations. We like it.
We do. If we're able to land the guest for next week that we're hoping to get, it's going to be a cool show. We're hoping to jump into a different
in the line.
We're not going to rock the body in time.
Okay. Okay, I believe you.
If you don't stop, I'm going to shake.
Sonora.
Yep. But no, we're gonna jump into another form of motorsports and get a.
Wait a minute, man. I did stop by and look at Jeff's car when I took some tools back to him. Man, he needs to work the body lines of that car because they're pretty rough.
Is it the 9D?
Yeah, the 9D.
Then we didn't ask him why, his car's
the
9D.
That's kind of Dockery's number, but Jeff has always run some different numbers throughout his years.
We'll ask him later.
Part 2.
Anyway. So, cool guest coming on next week if we can get him. Excited to bring him to you. Let's just say he knows a little thing or two about burnouts.
Yeah.
So that's the teaser I'm going to give you if we can get him.
Yep.
And we're excited about it.
And don't forget November the 3rd.
Remember.
And make sure, guys, listen, make sure you get down and support the Speedseum.
Yes, absolutely.
We haven't said that for a while. Make sure you get down and support the Speedseum. Cunningham, the guys down there, man, it's a beautiful place. It's smaller than it needs to be, but it does the job. And get down there and learn some about Owensboro, Davis County racing history and see the cool stuff that's down there, man. There's a regatta down there. There's all kinds of different stuff, so it's a pretty cool deal.
Ooh, and if you want to talk to one of the coolest women, who's just a girl, about racing, go grab some breakfast with old Evelyn Miller Rooster at Windy Hollow Restaurant.
She's gonna be pissed when you called her old.
I didn't call her old, but there's a ton of racing memorabilia there as well.
You don't get no country ham. You don't like it anyway.
I don't like country ham, and we've talked about that. I talked to her about that.
Moving on.
God, go eat breakfast.
Get out to Windy Hollow Restaurant and eat some breakfast, man. It's awesome. Get out to Windy Hollow Speedway. Get out to Cedar Ridge Speedway, Rockport Raceway, Western Kentucky Speedway, Tri-State Speedway. Yes, we've said them all. So get out and support your local racetrack, whatever form that may be. Get up to US 60 Raceway in Hardensburg. The drag races. Go down to Bowling Green. Check it out down there at Beach Bend.
Tri-State.
Tri-State Speedway in Hopstad, Indiana. So anyway, guys, get out and support your local racetrack. Do all you can do for our sport. We support everything.
We love you guys, all of you, even you, right there. I see you. You're picking your nose. We still love you. For Nathan Porkchop Conway, I am Wes
Paola.
Plugola. Lou Allen.
We'll see you next time.
Yep.
You've been listening to the best up-and-coming motorsports podcast on the internet. Tune in next week to see who we're trading paint with on the Bent Fender Podcast.